your academic transcript or your grade point average. So one of the things that is necessary for you to do is probably have your academic transcript evaluated where you actually have a grade point attached to it. So, you know how you guys have ones and twos? In the US, they use A's through D's. So that gives you a sliding scale. A C average is a 2.0, B average is 3.0, A average is 4.0. So depending on the higher your grade point average, the lower your SAT score would be. And they've also changed the last time, I don't know what it is right now, with that scale, the SAT score. So the higher your grade point average, the lower your SAT score. If you have a lower grade point average, then you have to have a higher SAT score. The specific numbers I don't have in front of me, but I know there's someone going to be presenting in the series that will give you that can give you those specifics. Again, the NCAA website and NCAA Clearinghouse is a great resource for you to get those specific information. So the fact that you have access to the internet and internet service, it'd be prudent for you. I would encourage you to do a lot of your research as well too. Go to the NCAA website, ncaa.org, and then you would find SAT requirements, academic requirements. There's a whole bunch of things on there that you can do some of that research as well. Are you there?
Hi, sorry, I lost a bit.
No problem. Yeah, so I'm actually reading a question in as well that's asking, could you tell me what the hindrances to someone who's already attending university in Trinidad obtaining a scholarship?
Correct, yes.
That's actually not necessarily a hindrance. What you would be considered is to be a transfer student. So you can still get a scholarship. You're just going to be coming in as a transfer student, which in some cases actually works out really well. For example, if the initial requirements as a freshman, you would have negated those requirements when you're coming as a transfer. So basically they'll take a look at your transcript, see how many credit hours equivalent that you've earned, and then they would apply those. So if you were a traditional freshman, and let's say you didn't have a science subject, which is required, but you were already enrolled in university at home, by the time you're transferring, now you're coming in not as a freshman necessarily, but you might be coming in as a sophomore. And now those freshman requirements of having to have had that science subject is no longer a necessary requirement. So I would say it depends on how far you are into your studies in Trinidad, because again, there's a yearly limit in your window. So if you're going to transfer in and you only have 1 year left, then it's less likely that a school might want to invest a scholarship in you for 1 year, based on either your age and or your academic standing from your year standpoint. So if by the time you come in, you're going to be a senior, a coach might be saying, no, it might not be worth my time investing in 1 year scholarship into student. And then for some schools, they might say, yeah, I'll take you for a year because we really need a player, or we have this spot that we really need to be filled. It's late and we still need a player, so we'll take you for a year. So it just depends. But that would be one of your challenges, would be when you're coming in, either age-wise as a transfer, or how much eligibility you would have left on your table to help make that decision a little bit easier for the coach that's recruiting you.
Thank you, Kendall. We have another question. which is with regard to what advice would you give to someone currently, was that what you just answered? Someone currently in junior college system looking for a transfer to a four-year school?
They ask about being in university in Trinidad. So,
It's
um,
more or less the same thing.
well, in the junior college system here, it's pretty much the same, except I would say that that's a little bit more natural progression because a lot of students go to junior college and then finish up their eligibility. So if you're in junior college, it's more than likely you're going to have either 3 years left or 2 years left. But the key there with the junior college is your transfer hours. So for every semester, you have to earn at least a minimum of 12 credit hours. So 24 in your first year for you to transfer in with a 2.0 GPA. If you have that, you could transfer in and then you have 3 years left in a four-year institution. If you are in your Division I school, you actually have to graduate from the junior college. So if you don't transfer in that first year, if you get to your second year, you have to graduate with a 2.0 and have at least 48 credit hours to be able to transfer in. The institutions have something that's called your APR, your annual progressive rate. So the students are required to earn a certain amount of credits every semester or every year. Some of it you can make up in summer school up to a certain number of hours. But that's in the progression, you have to be able to pass a certain number of courses with a C average or better in order to continue with your eligibility from one year to the next.
Okay, so we have another question. When the student is preparing,
Their
sorry,
profile.
yeah, when they're preparing their profile for coaches to view, what do you think is most important, or what things are coaches specifically looking for?
Okay, in general terms, here's what a profile should include. Um, all of your basic biography information, name, date of birth, or at least your age, but date of birth, the school you're attending, what grade you're in, so what form you're in, whether you're in fifth form or sixth form, um, your academic requirements, how many CXCs or O levels you have, A levels you have, if you've already done the ACT or SAT, what those scores are, because the first thing a coach is going to look for is, are you going to be academically eligible? So they're going to be looking for that. You could be playing in the national team, but if you're not academically eligible, then it doesn't make sense to even pursue a conversation with you. So that would be the most critical information to have on there. So when we say, again, academically eligible, there's two things you have: eligible to be admitted to the institution academically, and academically eligible to participate as a student athlete. Those are two different things. So I might be eligible to participate as a student athlete because I meet the base requirement, but the institution's admission standards are higher than what I've attained in my eligibility as a student, as an athlete. So yeah, I could play on the team, but guess what? I can't be admitted to the school. So you have to understand what those two things are and why it's critical to have those on your profile. I would say in today's climate, you want to have some highlight clips that you could include of you playing. Make sure it's done properly. Make sure they could identify who you are by number, by jersey color or uniform color. If you can have it edited properly where you have arrows or circles that identify you, and also in build-up play, not just when you're on the ball, but if you could get clips that show a little bit of before, while you're on the ball, and after, you know, in your reposition or whatever the case might be. So some clips would be important in there. Someone just asked me this question because they're preparing for a presentation, and one of the things I did recommend was to also maybe now do a little video introduction, but make a clip, make a little video introducing yourself to the coach and saying why getting a scholarship from their school would be important to you, so you could talk how it would be life-changing or whatever the case might be. So so that could be another good piece to put in there, but your academic, and then obviously to include your playing background. You know, what level you played at, what schools you play at, what position you play. If you have a primary position, if you have a secondary position. I would even go as far to say that you're a dominant left-footed player, especially. A dominant left-footed player is always one that we look for. Coaches are also interested in who you are as a person. So if you could put a personal statement in there about who you are, again, that could come in with the little video clip that you want to include. You can attach a picture if you want to, so that they could, you know, put a face to a name as they read your profile.
Okay, great. I know we have a few comments with regard to the Facebook. We're having some technical issues with the Facebook for this session. We will try to rectify for the next session. As you can see, we are at the limit for today's session. So we will try to put some other things in place for the next session. There's also a question, Kendall, how many subjects do you need to have with your SAT?
Okay, so for the international student, there's basically 5 subjects. You have to have a math subject, a general science subject, in your case, English, and then any 2 other social sciences. So economics and sociology, at least those 5 you need to have, along with your SAT scores.